Hey everybody, we're going to do the December 9th daily Bible reading. We're going to start out in Hosea chapter 9, verse 1. Do not rejoice, O Israel, with joy like other peoples, for you have played the harlot against your God. You have made love for hire on every threshing floor. The threshing floor and the winepress shall not feed them, and the new wine shall fail in her. They shall not dwell in the Lord's land. But Ephraim shall return to Egypt, and shall eat unclean things in Assyria. They shall not offer wine offerings to the Lord, nor shall their sacrifices be pleasing to him. It shall be like bread of mourners to them. All who eat it shall be defiled, for their bread shall be for their own life. It shall not come into the house of the Lord. What will you do in the appointed day, and in the day of the feast of the Lord? For indeed they are gone because of destruction. Egypt shall gather them up. Memphis shall bury them. Nettles shall possess their valuables of silver. Thorns shall be in their tents. The days of punishment have come. The days of recompense have come. Israel knows the prophet is a fool. The spiritual man is insane because of the greatness of your iniquity and great enmity. The watchman of Ephraim is with my God. But the prophet is a fowler snare in all his ways, enmity in the house of his God. They are deeply corrupted, as in the days of Gibeah. He will remember their iniquity. He will punish their sins. I found Israel like grapes in the wilderness. I saw your fathers as the first fruits on the fig tree in its first season. But they went to Baal Peor and separated themselves to that shame. They became an abomination like the thing they loved. As for Ephraim, their glory shall fly away like a bird. No birth, no pregnancy, and no conception. In chapter 9, verses 7 through 8, the prophets were God's inspired messengers and watchmen, yet Israel considered them fools and madmen. Verse 12, though they bring up their children, yet I will bereave them to the last man. Yes, woe to them when I depart from them. Just as I saw Ephraim like Tyre, planted in a pleasant place, so Ephraim will bring out his children to the murderer. Give them, O Lord, what will you give? Give them a miscarrying womb and dry breast. All their wickedness is in Gilgal, for there I hated them. Because of the evil of their deeds, I will drive them from my house. I will love them no more. All their princes are rebellious. Ephraim is stricken. Their root is dried up. They shall bear no fruit. Yes, were they to bear children, I would kill the darlings of their womb. My God will cast them away because they did not obey him, and they shall be wanderers among the nations. Chapter 10. Israel empties his vine. He brings forth fruit for himself. According to the multitude of his fruit, he has increased the altars. According to the bounty of his land, they have embellished his sacred pillars. Their heart is divided. Now they are held guilty. He will break down their altars. He will ruin their sacred pillars. For now they say, we have no king because we did not fear the Lord. And as for a king, what would he do for us? They have spoken words, swearing falsely and making a covenant. Thus judgment springs up like hemlock in the furrows of the field. The inhabitants of Samaria fear because of the calf of Beth-aven, for its people mourn for it, and its priests shriek for it, because its glory has departed from it. The idol also shall be carried to Assyria as a present for King Jareb. Ephraim shall receive shame, and Israel shall be ashamed of his own counsel. As for Samaria, her king is cut off like a twig on the water. Also the high places of Aven, the sin of Israel, shall be destroyed. The thorn and thistle shall grow on their altars. They shall say to the mountains, cover us, and to the hills, fall on us. Cover us, fall on us. The captivity would be so severe that the people would pray for the mountains and hills to fall on them, similar to the last days. Verse 9, O Israel, you have sinned from the days of Gibeah. There they stood, the battle in Gibeah against the children of iniquity did not overtake them. When it is my desire, I will chasten them. Peoples shall be gathered against them, when I bind them for their two transgressions. Ephraim is a trained heifer that loves to thresh grain, but I harnessed her fair neck. I will make Ephraim pull a plow. Judah shall plow. Jacob shall break his clods. Sow for yourselves righteousness, reap in mercy, break up your fallow ground, for it is time to seek the Lord, till he comes and rains righteousness on you. You have plowed wickedness, you have reaped iniquity. You have eaten the fruit of lies, because you trusted in your own way, in the multitude of your mighty men. Therefore tumult shall arise among your people, and all your fortresses shall be plundered, as Shalman plundered Beth Arbel in the day of battle, a mother dashed in pieces upon her children. Thus it shall be done to you, O Bethel, because of your great wickedness. At dawn the king of Israel shall be cut off utterly. Psalm 139, verses 13 through 16. For you formed my inward parts. You covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret and skillfully wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. Your eyes saw my substance, being yet unformed, and in your book they all were written, the days fashioned for me, when as yet there were none of them. Formed, covered. By virtue of the divinely designed period of pregnancy, God providentially watches over the development of the child while yet in the mother's womb. Your book. This figure of speech likens God's mind to a book of remembrance. None of them. God sovereignly ordained David's life before he was conceived. I believe that in your book they all were written, the days fashioned for me. It's the Lamb's book of life, and God knew before he ever created the world who was going to live at what period in time, and he had a purpose for each and every one of us, because God knows the beginning, the middle, and the end. He knows it all. And so he knew that Kimberly Tilley was going to be born, in 1969, and I don't know when I'm going to die or be taken up in the rapture. I don't know, but he knew when I was going to live, and he knew when you were going to live, and he knew the purpose and the plans that he has for you and for I, and they are good plans to prosper us and not to harm us. And, in John 10:10, he sent his son Jesus, and Jesus came that we might have life abundantly. Not just any life, but abundant life. And the thief, the first part of that verse says, the thief cometh not but for to steal, to kill, and destroy. And so, Satan is the thief, and Satan comes in and he wants to steal our faith, and he wants to steal our hope, and he wants to steal from us. Because our faith and our hope, that is our life. And so, sorry about that. I got off on my soapbox there. Proverbs 29, verse 21. He who pampers his servant from childhood will have him as a son in the end. So if you pamper a child, you'll have a child forever. 3 John 1 through 14. The elder, to the beloved Gaius, whom I love in truth, Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health, just as your soul prospers. So as our soul prospers, which only happens, by the way, when we're in the Word of God, as our soul prospers, if we flip that verse around, then we prosper in all things, even in our health. It's good for our health to read our Word, to read the Word of God. Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health, just as your soul prospers. For I rejoiced greatly when brethren came and testified of the truth that is in you, just as you walk in truth. I have no greater joy than to hear that my children walk in truth. Beloved, you do faithfully whatever you do for the brethren and for strangers, who have borne witness of your love before the church. If you send them forward on their journey in a manner worthy of God, you will do well, because they went forth for his name's sake, taking nothing from the Gentiles. We therefore ought to receive such, that we may become fellow workers for the truth. I wrote to the church, but Diotrephes, who loves to have the preeminence among them, does not receive us. Therefore, if I come, I will call to mind his deeds, which he does, prating against us with malicious words, and not content with that, he himself does not receive the brethren, and forbids those who wish to, putting them out of the church. Beloved, do not imitate what is evil, but what is good. He who does good is of God, but he who does evil has not seen God. Demetrius has a good testimony from all, and from the truth itself. And we also bear witness, and you know that our testimony is true. I had many things to write, but I do not wish to write to you with pen and ink. But I hope to see you shortly, and we shall speak face to face. Peace to you. Our friends greet you. Greet the friends by name. I have no greater joy. John's personal affection for Gaius radiated especially from his personal conduct. My children, the word my, is emphatic in the original. John's heart delighted in the proper conduct of his spiritual children in the faith. Those who walk, conduct in the truth, belief, have integrity. There is no dichotomy between professing and living. He had strong fatherly affection for them. So what was the problem with Diotrephes in 3 John verses 9 through 10? John apparently had written a previous letter to the church, perhaps on the subject of hospitality, but it was lost. Perhaps Diotrephes never read it to the church because he rejected John's authority. Diotrephes, who loves to have the preeminence, the word preeminence has the idea of desiring to be first. It conveys the idea of someone who is selfish, self-centered, and self-seeking. The language suggests a self-promoting demagogue who served no one, but wanted all to serve only him. Diotrephes' actions directly contradict Jesus's and the New Testament's teaching on servant leadership in the church. Diotrephes does not receive us. Diotrephes modeled the opposite of kindness and hospitality to God's servants, even denying John's apostolic authority over the local congregation, and as a result, denying the revelation of God that came through that authority. His pride endeavored to supplant the rule of Christ through John in the church. Diotrephes' character was the very opposite of the gentle and loving Gaius, who readily showed hospitality. If I come, I will call to mind his deeds. John's apostolic authority meant that Diotrephes had to answer for his behavior. The apostle did not overlook this usurping of Christ's place in the church. Verse 10 indicates that Diotrephes was guilty of 4 things. 1, prating against us. The word prating comes from a word meaning to bubble up and has the idea of useless, empty jabber. For example, talking nonsense. The charges against John were completely unjustified. 2, with malicious words. Not only were Diotrephes' charges false, they were evil. 3, does not receive the brethren. He not only slandered John, but also deliberately defied other believers. And 4, putting them out of the church. The original language indicates that Diotrephes' habit was to excommunicate those who resisted his authority. To accept John's authority, as well as being hospitable to the traveling ministers, directly threatened the authority that Diotrephes coveted. That concludes the